buy local is good, of course, and it's not going to go away, but feeding our neighbors is even more cool because it's even closer.
As 2010 winds down, we're out here at 17 degrees in December, but there's still food growing right here behind me on the hill at Double H Farm. With Richard Bean, Double H Farm, sustainable economics for farmers, and what happens when you buck the system. This program is a production of Meet the Farmer TV, LLC, in association with Planet Earth Diversified, Melly Productions, and Leslie P. Jenkins Photography and Graphic Design. Meet the Farmer TV is made possible by Culpeper Media Network, helping to preserve the agricultural history of Virginia. And In the Kitchen magazine, serving the community and everyone who loves good food.
Those parents in those times weren't appreciated, and they said to their kids they should go. I mean, they're actually encouraging it, and now we need to get the people to appreciate the farmer.
So some of that lack of appreciation coincides with that shift from the farmer's feeding his neighbor to where he's feeding the grain elevator and the big corporation, and that same shift is the lack of appreciation. So the further he gets away from feeding his neighbor, the more he gets into the monoculture, the less there is appreciation, the more you think this isn't worth doing.
It's without question, and I love the feed the neighbor thing I come up with at that food collaborative,
yep.
You know, because buy local is good, of course, and it's not going to go away, but feeding our neighbors is even more cool because it's even closer. Right. Because, you know, it's funny, we talk about feeding our neighbors. We don't have a single person on this road that have shops here.
Yeah.
You know, one guy buys a little bit, but everybody else keeps going to the store. But we don't look at that. When you go to the farmer's market, you get the relationships and the appreciation. And it's I don't know anybody who's selling at these farmers markets that aren't getting some of this, especially if they're in the food business.
What do you see coming? What do you like the food hub? Is that the future of how we'll have a market for our stuff?
No, I don't think that's a
Walmart
future.
Will come to you and say, "I'm going to buy your broccoli."
I don't think the local food hub is going to be the answer. I think it is an answer, a great part, but you still got two great wholesalers in the city of Charlottesville, Standard and Cavalier. They'll buy more and more as time goes on, as we get more consistent, as we get more volume. They're looking at more consistency. Food Hub is able to do the diversity because their customer base is more committed. But eventually, those people are going to be players. They'd be players now if we could be more consistent. There's a little bad story about that too. Cavalier buys a lot of produce from the Department of Corrections at incredibly low prices.
Mm-hmm.
That's not right. There's a place that should be lobbied.
Why is that happening?
Why is it happening?
And why is Department of Corrections dropping the price? Why are they?
Because what's their labor cost?
But I mean, they shouldn't even have a profit motive. They should.
No, they should be selling to the other institutions.
Right. To the schools.
Or even
something.
giving it to them.
Yeah.
Not even to the schools. To other state-run facilities. I mean, that in itself is a good idea. Keeping the inmates busy and doing things like that, that's fine. But to sell it on the open market and competing with the other farmers and then knocking the price right out of it,
yeah,
that's not right. It's not right. Not right. And Kate, the head of Food Hub, is very aware of it too.
So who would we talk to?
That would be
a
your
governor?
political stuff. Yeah, you could talk to your congressman or your state.
I mean, that seems like something the governor could just fix with a stroke of the pen. Like, you need to sell at current
Can he
market
do anything
prices.
like that? I don't know if he can do anything like that. He's got to go through the proper command change.
Maybe the legislature. So maybe
I mean, that's a possibility, but I think that's where it should be dealt with because it's a government organization.
Yeah, it seems like any time a government organization would dump product that's competing with a local industry, that they would be sensitive to that. And that's pretty much what they're doing. If they're dropping stuff on the market at super low prices,
Well, they're not sensitive to it. Who's actually even coming up with the prices?
yeah.
I mean, they're like half of what the normal price is. That's not even close. It's not like a 10% drop or something. But that's just the sidelight of the stuff. I mean, if state organizations are going to produce some food, that's a good idea, okay? But feed it to their own people.
Yeah.
Save tax dollars for those organizations don't have to buy food from the open market. Well, that's okay. But and that all goes back to our whole philosophy of how we treat farmers. You know, and how is that going to change?
Yeah.
Do we have to have the food riots? Do we have to have the anarchy? Do we have to have all that disruption before that's going to happen?
Probably.
So we're going to have shotgun rider when I deliver? I've thought about it.
Yeah.
Double H Farm was accused in 2007 of selling uninspected pork and delivering it to be sold. And in fact, technically, they were correct. But how did we get into that predicament to begin with? We were following all the rules and regulations. Prior to that, our animals were being killed at a slaughterhouse in Lynchburg called Dinner Bell. And they changed hands. And then on top of that, they stopped killing hogs. And I was left with no place no place that I knew of that would kill my hogs. So we started killing them here and processing the meat just like we would have done for the last centuries. And the state, in their infinite wisdom, did not like that, and they decided to arrest us for doing it. And matter of fact, they had a SWAT team raid right here on the farm while we were 10 people coming in here, swooping down on 2 old people selling pork chops. Almost unbelievable. And yes, technically we were doing that, but there was nothing wrong with our product. We weren't having any trouble with our customers there. Everybody loved it. And so in the process of being arrested and going through all that ordeal, we found another place that would kill the hogs, the USDA inspection shield. But we were also able to bring the carcasses back to the farm and process them on the farm, which was a godsend for us because we make 10 or so different flavors of sausages, and we really have our own recipes, and we have a little more control of the cutting and the way the customer wants it, and so on and so forth. So we're really back in business. The only thing is we have to take our hogs all the way to Harrisonburg just to have them killed and inspected, and then we have to go back and get them and bring them back home again to process them, which we do right here in this little room. And so there was a lot of press over our arrest and what was going on, and we were actually considered to be food heroes because we were standing up to the government, but what we were really trying to do was survive. We had all these hogs, no place to kill them. The farmers market season was starting, so we wanted to process them, and we did. And the situation is now closed. We're inspected here once a year. That's kind of a joke in itself, but we are, and it doesn't have anything to do with the meat. It's just what the place looks like. And but what determines whether we're going to be good or not is our customers. Because if we're not good to our customers, they're not going to be buying from us anyway. And that's really about feeding your neighbor, feeding locally, because There's no middleman. There's somebody. There's an answer. I didn't like that. I do like that. Do it again. Change it. We can do it.
So that's an important part of the infrastructure that's necessary then, is to have an abattoir that can kill the animals legally for you. So if
Yeah.
we lost T&E Meats
Yeah.
again, and you were in that situation, you didn't have them, then what? Where do you go? Another 100
Well,
miles
yeah,
to go?
that's just it. Yeah, where do we go?
So there's a lot of little pieces to
If
keeping us
the-
going.
The farming infrastructure has been destroyed. And that's a big problem for especially the startup people, because where do they go to get the little details done that they don't do themselves? Where do you find a welder? Where do you find a mechanic that works on tractors and so on and so forth? You know, these things used to be everywhere. And it's disappeared. And now we kind of have to reinvent some of this stuff. And there's not enough of us to reinvent something that a guy who's got enough business to be doing it. He's got to make a living too. So
So when we go to town, we can't find the blacksmith and the feed store anymore. All we see is the big box stores.
well, you do
that are selling electronics.
But what about Tractor Supply? Give that company credit.
Yeah.
They have come in, filling a niche. What did they see? They see a country that is going to try to farm or be sustaining, and they're open 7 days a week. They're open. They have inventory. You can get stuff. You may not like the idea that a lot of stuff is from China, but the feed is made in this country. That they're serving a real need. That's filling a niche. Unfortunately, it's a big box store, but until the local southern states gets good, then that's what's going to happen.
And Southern
Although
States
the
has
southern
struggled for a
states
couple
in Charlottesville is an excellent run company. It's probably a franchise. Their
Well,
staff
it
is
did
well.
start as a co-op.
Their staff is well trained and so on and so forth, and they do a pretty good job there. But the southern states down here, and it's just not even alive here in Nelson County.
So you got to drive to Charlottesville when you need a hitch pin. You can't.
Well, we can go. We have a few other resources here because this has been an orchard county for a long time. Still some orchards left. There's still some residual things kicking around, and we have them. But
Yeah, that's one of the things that we've seen at some of the conferences. They talk about mobile slaughter units, like a big. It looks like a giant fifth wheel trailer that they come out and tractor.
Somebody with a lot of imagination and somebody who got some money. It's really not a practical situation whatsoever. It worked really good on the San Juan Islands out in the Washington Sound and Puget Sound because there was nothing. There is nothing. They have to come and kill them there. But if you think about it, going around to all these farms and kill them, we still have to have coolers to put the carcasses in. We still have all this other infrastructure that has to be taken care of. Not all farmers are going to be meat cutters. Where's that stuff going to go? In what form?
What would it take for you to become USDA inspected that you could actually kill here on the farm for multiple farmers? Is that too big a project?
$1 million.
That much infrastructure?
Oh, I'm sure. And that wouldn't be a good idea for me. But to put one in Nelson County as a private enterprise, I could see that. If I was 30 years younger, I could see that. Because then you can draw, you're right on Route 29, you got a pretty good, you can draw from other farmers. Because you need volume in a slaughterhouse. And you could build something. That is much better idea than a mobile. Because in effect, that's going to serve that circle of farmers around, and there's a lot of cows, a lot of cattle, and there's a lot of hamburger can be made. They may not be good quality table meat, but it's still for processing and hamburgers, we got plenty. And then there would be a reason to increase the pig production in the area. Pig production has gone because it's all gone to contracts and the major houses and everything else. Everything is controlled, vertically integrated. There's a big demand for our kind of pork that tastes better, really good. Restaurants want them. Where can we get more of it? Some processors want it because it's got more fat. But those farmers who start up, where are they going to get their animals processed?
Yeah.
So one in Buckingham maybe, or Nelson County, makes a lot of sense.
Do you think there's any possibility we could get a co-op going? We could get some farmers together to make it happen, so that it's not another corporation somewhere, or that we actually
I'm
pull together the farmers.
I'm jaundiced about that, because through the 80s and early 90s, I was part of the longest running livestock co-op in the United States, Yankee Shepherd Lamb out of Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
We were killing at the end up to 200 lambs a week. We even had a kosher kill. We had a great system. We were selling to Whole Foods, wasn't even Whole Foods then, selling to local stores and so on and so forth. Ran out of capital and ran out of lambs. And co-ops, because of the fact that they're run by committees and board of directors, you can't make quick decisions. We were a good bunch, but we could, a lot of times we'd be fighting about little things that weren't important. But we actually did it for the longest period of time. And we had to come all the way to West Virginia to get loads of lambs because we didn't have enough. And we'd think that more people would get on and raise lambs for the co-op, because we were paying a decent price. But even then, you'd have to take so much off each lamb to pay the bills, and that part of the deducted from when you sold the lambs. But co-ops are not all that effective. They were once upon a time when we had Land O'Lakes and the beginning of the early Southern State days back in the 20s, when the farmers were so desperate. They really did get together to do stuff. And there was a lot of farmers. Now, how many farmers would we get together to form that co-op? You'd need a lot of them, because you need a lot of capital. And it's got to be sound capital, and it has to sit there, because it takes a while to turn over the money in a slaughterhouse. You got a big infrastructure. You got to be paying for the animals that are coming in and going out all the time. You got your labor, your electricity. There's quite a bit of expense, but what are you doing? You're producing product that people are going to eat every single day.
And you're building an infrastructure.
And you're building an industry too. It's a really good thing. But as we bastardized farmers, we ended up bastardizing all those industries at the same time. And a lot of them that are still exist and don't really want to go into the federal realm because of the rules, paperwork and so on is so onerous, and it becomes even more onerous when you're smaller, because the percentage of the time you use that, do that stuff, is greater than the big guys.
Right. So from where we stand, we see it just crazy that our federal government spent $700 billion bailing out the bankers that got us into the mess. But what $1 billion could do for local infrastructure all across the country is just phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
How do we get that message to the president or to
Buy
the
local.
Congress?
Buy local. That's the arrow that would shoot to the heart. Because if we can take care of our localities, we can take care of our communities, we'll be good. We'll be good. And that's going to wash over. Because everybody wants to copy it. Look how farmers markets are being copied today. They can't build them fast enough. Now they're building them so fast, maybe we're getting too many.
Well, there's also another side, I think, to the building of the farmers markets. Is it's capitalistic organizations looking at a way to expand a customer base with no risk, because they basically offer a space and then all the growers bring their stuff in at their expense. So it's a great way to add shelves to your grocery store without actually spending a dime. Just saying, come on and set up on our parking lot. So so there's a little bit of a marketing ploy that's going on, like, we can save our our church by having a farmer's market
Yeah,
out here and bringing
there's
traffic out. So.
probably some truth to that too, but that can wash itself out over time. You know, they won't be strong enough to survive because they're not built on the right premise. They're just trying to make money. When the market is supposed to serve the community.
So what about a vegetable co-op? What if we got all of the vegetable growers together? I mean, isn't that kind of what Food Hub's trying to be? The non-profit?
Well, they're doing it
that's
without
force?
the corporation label or the cooperative label, which is
But they're nonprofit, so they got grants.
true. And I prefer their system than the co-ops because they're really hard to run. They're really hard to run. You'd be better off selling to Standard and what's the other one I just
Cavalier.
said it? Cavalier. I mean, they are your middlemen. We do need middlemen. And they're always being talked down about and they don't need this and that. But, you know, when you're selling lots of stuff and we can't sell to everybody. We can't even produce for everybody.
Right, and they've got this huge infrastructure. I mean, you see they got 30 or 40 refrigerated trucks worth 50 grand each. I mean, you know, they got millions of dollars of refrigeration that wouldn't be available to us as farmers for doing that work. But how do we get that stuff into them? I mean, they're bringing tractor trailers from California every couple days.
So,
It's all on price.
no, it's not all on price. It's availability, a lot of that too.
Yeah, I guess we don't have a pallet load of.
We don't have
jalapenos
enough
to
stuff to go there. That's a problem from them. They need a lot of stuff sometimes and we can't. But believe me, they do it once in a while. I mean,
Well, we sell
They
stuff
got-
to them. I mean, if we've
and-
got it and we take it to them, they'll buy it.
they got customers who are asking, what do you got that's local this week? They do have it. You know, and they'd like to say more because, you know, those customers are not asking what the price is. They're asking them, do you have anything local? Period. That's
So how would we as farmers cooperate, maybe grow the same crop so that we could amass our joint efforts and satisfy one of their needs? Is that a possibility?
well, that's something that actually the Food Hub is trying to do with some of their meetings. You know, they're trying to do that. I don't actually participate in that because we don't have a problem selling, and we sell our extra to them. And that's the plan that we had, and that's what we agreed to. So we're not actually entitled to the higher prices. We end up getting them, but we're not technically. But that's what they're trying to do: get more people together and organize and say, we need more of this, and get more growers, and they get them to sign up in January. And they'll tell them what they're going to pay and how much they think they're going to need, and that's a good program. And I think they're doing a good job. And they've got meetings for that. They've got an organization now that's doing that, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing, and that's why it's one of the answers to the question. It's only one of them, though.
So you think some of the new growers should find an organization like that to partner with?
Well, I think it's good for especially new growers who don't know a lot. You know, I mean, when I started this farm here, the first thing I would do would be like sell it before I grew it. So the marketing was never a problem, or the sales were never a problem for us. Production's a problem for us. Because we sell more than we can actually produce sometimes. Oh, once in a while you get caught with something on the other direction, but not often. So getting farmers together has never been easy. It can be important, but who in fact are we really getting together now since there's so few of us? You know, there used to be 1955, there was 200 orchards in this county. I think there's 5 now. 200! Now some of those could have been a half an acre, but they were an orchard and they were supplying the chain. And just the infrastructure, this county once had 33,000 people in it. It was one of the biggest sheep counties in the state. All that's gone.
What caused it to go away?
Well, there's probably a number of things. First of all, the depression, and then we didn't want to pay the farmers what things were worth. The Washington apples came in with a lot of competition. labor situations. I think that's a kind of a complicated thing. I mean, the same thing happened to that part of agriculture that happened to the vegetable agriculture, and because this county was well designed for it because you got all these southeast facing slopes. Not a good county for vegetables. But over by Richmond in the Eastern Shore, yeah, it was a great truck farming area one time. Really, really big time. It was part of the chain going up the coast to New England, you know.
So really that kind of monoculture, that focus on so efficient by becoming focused has worked against us in all of these things, where the diversity of the small farming community no longer can compete with that needle focus of we're going to do 1 million chickens here and therefore a processing plant is peanuts to us.
Well, that's true because the cost of that food has been subsidized. That food's not healthy. Food we produce is healthy. Well,
We can't claim that, can we?
we can claim it. Nobody not many people are talking about it, but we can
Yeah.
claim it. We can actually do tests. You could eat my eggs raw, let alone have to cook them hard boiled.
Right.
You could eat them raw. I mean, there's no salmonella. I mean, you know, it's altogether different. And same with our pork meat. You know, there's so many twists and turns to the whole program, and I think some are going to shake out, some of them are going to go away, but we're going to need to have some food produced. And Ara said something that's extremely important. You know, he's appreciated. Farmers have not been appreciated for the longest time. And we have a culture that thinks we're slaves to them.
So that's really the biggest thing, is to get the American public to appreciate the farmer.
If we got that whole issue would mushroom. We'd have people telling their congressmen we need these farmers to be supported, and it wouldn't be just us farmers doing all the talking. The food safety bills, who was doing all the complaining? Us little farmers, probably, because we could see what was going to happen. The rest of the people didn't really get an idea. They actually thought they're going to protect us. They're going to protect us.
Yeah. So we really kind of got four main things, and get the public to appreciate the farmers, maintain some diversity. Let's get the government out of the we can regulate ourselves out of the problem mode, and really just kind of bring that local focus back around full circle to appreciating the farmer.
Yeah, I'd say those four. I'm glad you didn't say price, because that would come with it by automatic.
Yeah, you got to be
That'll all come.
competitive, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's one of the reasons.
But people buy fancy cars as well as
That's right.
simple cars.
And
so-
people need a choice. And they can buy a cabbage or they can buy an heirloom tomato.
Well, Richard, as a fellow farmer, is there anything else we didn't cover?
We covered a lot of stuff. I don't know what else. If you get it, if it isn't right on the tip of our tongue, if it ain't really on the tip of our tongues.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching another Meet the Farmer TV. This program is a production of Meet the Farmer TV, LLC, in association with Planet Earth Diversified, Melly Productions, and Leslie P. Jenkins Photography and Graphic Design. Meet the Farmer TV is made possible by Culpeper Media Network, helping to preserve the agricultural history of Virginia. And In the Kitchen magazine, serving the community and everyone who loves good food.